let's get started. And I would like to welcome all of you. And I want to thank you so much for joining from all over the world right now. A lot of people from the UK. And Sunny just jumped on from our New York City Center. And we've got some people from our Florida. Oh, I just got muted. Okay, great. So thank you very much. What we're going to do, this is a fireside chat that Jamyang has asked me to do for the next hour and a half. I will make time also for questions and answers if that's helpful. And again, thank you for coming from all of us joining to lend some buoyancy to our experiences and our lives and to really make the most use of our time. What I'd like to start with right now, and sorry, didn't mean to neglect Denmark, because we have people from Denmark, people from Los Angeles, and obviously all around the UK and other places as well. Thank you so much. I'd like to start all of us with a motivation and for you to just close your eyes for a moment, whatever space you're in. If you're in a chair and would like to put your feet right on the ground, this is a wonderful coping mechanism to help you feel rooted. Now, I'm not talking about a leaden anchor. I'm talking about a way to feel the roots from Mother Earth come into you to keep you grounded in a beneficial way. That lends buoyancy to our experiences. So as you feel kind of the earth there beneath your feet, and make sure that your back, your spine is as extended as possible. So you don't need to lean too heavily against the back of your chair if it's possible. But the main thing is to find a comfortable position. If you'd like to lightly close your eyes, bringing that experience inward for a moment. Begin to notice the experience of your basic respiration. Simple inhalation, simple exhalation. If you can, allow that breath to deepen, but slowly you are inhaling and slowly exhaling. Extremely useful coping mechanism right now during this time is to keep a consistent meditation practice happening for you in your life. Many of you have an active practice. For some people, we're brand new, and it starts with a comfortable posture, getting distractions out of the way, meaning we're not looking at our phone now. We're not multitasking. We're simply, for a moment, being with our breath. There is calmness always there, even when we don't feel that it is, but returning to your breath and allowing it to deepen slowly immediately brings some perspective and space to the mind. If the mind wanders off the breath, don't give up, don't stop. Simply observe. Gently return your mind to the breath. And as you do this, rather than forcing meditation, rather than pushing or squeezing to make yourself meditate, to be a better meditator, or rather than entertaining and following thoughts, I don't have time to meditate now, I'm not a good meditator, let them float off like bubbles that have very little essence, lightly carried by the wind. Let the thoughts go. And allow yourself to be in meditation. To be in meditation rather than meditating. Just allowing that natural space of your mind to show up with whatever is there. Allowing and accepting and simply being. This space is always available to you. Rather than following habits of panic and agitation, rather than making another imprint in your mind of boredom or depression or fear, there's a natural awareness that's separate from that. Let's make more familiarity with that experience. Spacious awareness, luminous awareness is always there. And from here, can we just breathe in some appreciation right now for the positive aspects of our lives? We have many right now, even though there appears to be an extremely challenging time on the planet. But I would imagine for most of you, you have the basics: food, clothing, shelter. Food, clothing, and shelter. Fantastic. Can you find a way as you inhale to breathe that wave of gratitude in and let it soak through your whole system? Let the body fill with appreciation as it touches every organ, deeply into the bones, all the mental activity, let it run through the mind. Just feeling the body and mind pervaded with gratitude right now. The fact that you have access to electricity and good internet to be able to stream all these courses and practice sessions. It's a huge luxury for a lot of the planet. Take a moment and really appreciate that and some other wonderful circumstances of your life. And what about your good qualities, which you have many of, even if you don't think so? What about your good qualities? You've tuned in right now. I think that's a pretty spacious, balanced quality. Many people are streaming Netflix movies right now. Give yourself some credit for that. You're trying to help your neighbors, helping some relatives. You may be checking in with face calls or audio calls with elderly people that you know, or people living alone who are lonely. Maybe you're trying to support your local center. Fantastic. Again, let this wave of gratitude soak through your body and mind. You are good enough. You're giving it your best shot. And from here, we have every perfect opportunity to work with our minds, to transform our minds. Every perfect opportunity. From here, let's consider our motivation. Many of you have already set a motivation in the morning. We can reestablish that space of mind, directing it in a most positive way any time of the day. Anytime we remember, what's my motivation? What's my purpose for doing this activity right now? This is you taking control of your mind and directing it in a most beneficial way. Please set that motivation right now for our time together and all the activities of the rest of your day. And please relax. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. What I'd like you to do is, if those of you that can chat in the chat, I'd like you to put one word down in the chat, if you like, one word that talks about some challenge that you're having at this particular moment. One word if you'd like to add in the chat. So Andrea from LA is having trouble focusing, Andrea? Okay, we've got depression. Yeah, these are the things. So Ellie, what's the story with your time? Not enough time, too much time? What else is happening?
So you just saw my son lately. I'm struggling with childcare and working from home and wanting to give more time to people, but it's a struggle for me.
Okay. Annie Barbara, aloneness, is it separate from, is it a negative thing like loneliness, or is it aloneness?
Well,
my personal thing is aloneness can be quite
it's not
powerful.
really lonely. It's just that I can't be at Jamyang, so I'm doing everything just at home in this little place. I haven't got a garden. I'm in the top floor.
Okay.
It's okay, but it's not depression, but it's aloneness. If I
Yes.
can,
Okay.
I don't even know if that's a word.
Yes. No, aloneness is a great word. I actually like the word aloneness.
Yeah.
People are worried. People are missing people. There's depression and sadness. Yep. Okay. And priorities from Anne. So let's look at these things right now. And what I'd like to talk to you about, two words that I want to bring in, and I'm going to go through a few different things, solutions I find helpful right now, but I want to talk about two words. The first is self-compassion. Self-compassion, hyphenated word. I'm making it a hyphenated word. The second word is resilience. So I want to speak about those right now in response to how do I deal with all of these words that you've put down: a lack of laughter, concern, worry, fear, restlessness, aloneness, things like that, an inability to focus, trying to balance my time. Okay, the first part I find with self-compassion, the reason I brought this up right now, is we feel like we, as Buddhists, those of us that are Buddhists, we like the idea of compassion. We like the idea of compassion. That's what we're supposed to be feeling and practicing at many times of our lives, okay? And what happens when it gets interrupted a lot? And it does get interrupted for ordinary beings because we suffer from an imbalance in our minds. That's the ordinary state of humanness, okay? Buddha nature doesn't have imbalances, but unless you're a Buddha, and I don't know your mind, but normally you're going to suffer from some sort of imbalance I would also call delusion. And delusion upsets the space of compassion in our minds. So partly what goes on is if we're not taking care of ourselves, then everything gets all out of balance. But when we're on a Buddhist path, we often have an idea it's not okay to take care of ourselves because I'm supposed to be cherishing all others. The essence of bodhicitta is about turning my focus to all others. Okay, but it's all beings, it's all sentient beings, not necessarily all others. It's all living beings or sentient beings. So that happens to include you. You are a sentient being. So some balanced ways of self-compassion. Okay, if you're taking care of your son, and a number of people I know now are home working full-time, okay, with young children or school-age children at home that are trying to also do their programs. Okay, so let's reframe, and this is another word I love to use right now at this time or any time, is reframing a situation. So some of my neighbors and different people I know have complained about the kids are home and the kids are driving me crazy, and now we're all together in the house. And you have a house. That's a luxury for some people. That's a luxury for some people. Some of you have a house with a garden. Okay, Annie Barbara just said she doesn't have access to a garden. So several of the New Yorkers I know, as you know, people that live in London, similar to New York, it's very expensive. As a result, people live in very small spaces without access to greenery. So if you're somebody that has a garden, the weather's getting nicer, are you celebrating that you have a garden? Are you celebrating that there is a way for you and your kids to access the internet, to get online, to work and do their schoolwork? Again, it does come back to basic gratitude. Okay, and if I have that facility, that's fantastic. So can I reframe to see the positivity in it rather than just looking at the restrictions right now? Most of you know these things and you're already doing them. But the self-compassion can be, if I want to take care of my kids properly and support them with less panic and fear and more balance in my mind, then there's some things I'm going to need to do a little bit during the day for me. Okay. And it could be that in the evening you get in the bathtub and just whatever time you're in there alone yourself, light a candle, try to get the phone out of there. Okay. But some calming moment for you that you enjoy. Maybe it's the meditation practice in the morning. Okay. Maybe it's after you have dinner with the family or you make your child lunch, you get to have a little treat with them, a little piece of chocolate, but something like that, that there's some happy time to get rid of the schoolwork and all that. And now we have our happy activity of a little bit of a yoga practice at home. We're going to stretch together, or maybe that's something that you do on your own so that you maintain the balance with your family. If you're living with other people, even if you're living alone, what's the fun thing? What's the balance thing? The calming thing that you're doing for yourself, and it's okay to do those things. You're not doing them all day long, but you're inserting them after you have an exercise. So yesterday I was on a couple things in the morning, a couple programs in the morning, and we happened to have nice weather, and I was determined I was going to go out for a walk. I think in England, you're still able to go outside to walk. Is that? Yes. Okay. People are nodding. If you can, and you have some nice weather, is that an option for some of you to get the air? Okay. And actually the air in London is better now because less people are driving. It's the same thing going on in Los Angeles and Delhi right now, places that have been quite polluted. So again, can I take myself outside? Can you take yourself outside with your phone in your pocket, not in your hand? If you want to have the phone with you, and really spend a little bit more focus now on my outside surroundings. It's springtime for most of us. Flowers are blooming. And I don't know if you notice, but it feels like because a lot more people are inside, there's a lot more animals out there doing things. They're a little freer right now because they're not hindered by having human beings walking around. Do you ever watch the animals right now? Okay, building nests, getting their supplies and things like that. Notice this, it just lifts you out of the spirit of fear and restlessness and depression. And we know that physical exercise, it's proof for countering depression and anxiety. That's not anything new to any of you. So self-compassion it's allowed, it's perfectly okay. And I do it with the compassionate, wise motivation. It's not just about me. It's for me to show up in a more balanced way for myself, my family, my neighbors, whomever I'm living with, whomever I interact with on the street, so that I have a cushion of buoyancy under me, a cushion of calm under me, that people interact with that, rather than me being another person in a frenetic space. Okay? So it's perfectly okay to do things like that. To give you an example, and this is a highly realized being that many of us have been around Lama Zopa Rinpoche. What I've noticed from some unique experiences of being in a house where we were hosting Rinpoche, 5 of us hosting Rinpoche alone for 10 days. This happened a few times in my life. And I noticed that Rinpoche didn't really speak before 1 PM. He never did. He would send notes occasionally to the attendant, but he wouldn't speak. You weren't really allowed in the room. You weren't allowed to speak to Rinpoche, no matter what. And Rinpoche needed this recharge time to do his practices, to check in with whomever in any world system that he felt, but in a sense, renewing himself. So suddenly he could then engage with us in our reality later in the day to be a benefit. As you know, many of our great lamas that have visited us and taught at our centers, there have been limits on their time. And the attendant has often come to us when we've hosted lamas and said, well, you know, Rinpoche won't be out until after lunch, or Rinpoche's taking his meal alone in his room. You know, so they show us, they've set boundaries, and it's perfectly okay to set a boundary and mostly try to have it motivated from that space of compassionate wisdom. Is that possible? It's okay to do that. And then resiliency. Resiliency comes often from a space I find of reframing a situation where I'm able to pick myself up more quickly when some negative experience is coming in front of me, is coming into my space. Okay, somebody in your household's having a little bit of a meltdown. Somebody in your household is a little bit freaked out about how long is the social isolating going to go on in England. I know that's a big question right now in London in particular. There's a lot of people in London. There's a lot of people in Manhattan, in New York, and they're not really sure how safe it will be for any of the vulnerable community to be able to go back outside. And that's frustrating some people right now. So here's another thing to celebrate. Those of you on this path, which I think is most of you, is think about having the Dharma in your life right now. Think about having, as you mentioned, the practice sessions people are doing. Think about your centers offering online programs. Think about the kindness of that. And think about your brothers and sisters at these centers and with FPMT, that we're all in this together and we're all really helping to support each other. So this beautiful connection globally right now that we don't often feel is actually happening. So reach out to somebody you haven't spoken to in a while, you know, and maybe you know elderly people that may be having more difficulty because they're not connected to a Dharma community. I know some people right now that have told me they're lonely and they're bored. They're not connected to Dharma. So sometimes I call them and find ways to just say, hello, how's it going? And then maybe you can just sail across to them one coping mechanism that's working for you that you think is realistic for them to embrace in their life. It's not about making them Buddhist, okay? I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in people being happy and being more peaceful. So maybe you can explain something that works for you in secular terms, if they're not Buddhist, of what's helped you to wake up in the morning and be in a balanced, happier place, calmer place in the face of it. And reframing helps us with resiliency. I'll give an example of what happened to me a couple weeks ago. I'm in my parents' house. That's where I live in the suburbs of a big American city, okay? So I don't know all that there is to maintain the house. And my father, before he passed away, wasn't really maintaining the house for like 20 years. So I'm learning, and I didn't really want to be a householder, but this is a good base for me right now. And we don't really have a nunnery in the United States. So this is where I'm living right now. And I had a sewage backup. Can you imagine? So I didn't know about this. I didn't know the signs of why my sink in the kitchen seemed to be working one night that well. And the next morning, having a problem, I went down to the basement to check on this problem, which seemed to be a plumbing thing, and to meet a basement that was half full of sewage from this sewage backup. Okay, so I lost a few hours that day getting the company to come and then cleaning it up. Okay, so was it a drag? It was a drag on one level. On another level, I had been meaning to clean the floor in the basement and the laundry room. I kept, every time I go down there, I'm like, I really need to clean this floor. You know, well, it got very, very clean. Okay, so not only it got cleaned twice, it got bleached down twice, and it's very clean. So there's always a way of reframing that it wasn't the time that I meant to do it. It wasn't that I had that much time that day to do it, but sometimes you just have to be flexible, and that's what resiliency lends us. Unless there's an emergency, which I would really say emergencies are more of blood spurting out of somebody's aorta. Okay, that's an emergency. But other things, there can be a balance of time that I can suddenly realize I need to deal with this right now. Can I deal with that? And the other thing I'll get to later then, and I can get back to it. Okay. So let me talk about some other things. And here somebody's added laziness, unemployment. Absolutely. It's a big thing if you're having financial strains right now. So those of you that are working, and you might be working at home, and you might be supporting kids that are also trying to do schoolwork at home, okay? Think about the luxury that you are, number one, still employed, and that you're able to work from home. A number of people I know have lost their jobs. They had trouble in the United States filling out the application for unemployment, like that. Some of them are waiting to get their checks, still waiting, having to pay rent, not having a financial cushion. So the fact that you're still employed is a huge part of it. And then the second part is the fact that you can work from home as an employed person. So there's people right now in the city of Philadelphia that do work and still have jobs, but they're driving buses or they're operating the subway. So they're every day putting themselves at risk in order to stay employed and to be able to feed their families. Do you ever think about these people? We often call them in the States service employees. Now they're calling them essential workers or essential employees. Okay, the people that mop hospitals, that clean your bathrooms, that take your trash out, that take your rubbish out, okay? So somebody just wrote, thank you, heroes, okay? These people are always essential. I don't know if you've figured that out yet. They're always essential, right? You can't go into hospitals unless these people are not doing their jobs and not cleaning and mopping up. And it's unbelievable, backbreaking work. I thought of the guy that came to help me with the sewer. This is his job. He spends in people's sewage every day. Essential to keep your household running like that. So now we're focused on them. And I really am so grateful right now that nurses are finally getting the attention they should always get, because they've often been kind of in the lower ranks of people, service people that have done so much kindness. They're so amazing nurses, okay? So this is incredible to just, can you have some gratitude and think about these people, how they're keeping the engines of our countries running right now when a lot of people are closed, not able to work at all. So, but think of the risk they're putting themselves at. So let's talk about some other things. If you have unemployment with any of the things you mentioned, depression, worry, things like that. Okay, here's some coping mechanisms. Many of these I think you're familiar with. If we say, don't worry, and people say, oh, don't worry, okay, that doesn't really help. Okay, but let's look at the worry. Let's look at worry right now. Do we ever make problems bigger than what they really are? Okay, and I'm going to make a distinction between worry and concern. Concern for me is more constructive. Okay, worry is a negative ruminating mind. Negative ruminate, it's just turning, no solution. It goes into panic, anxiety, fear, like that. Okay, instead of worrying, can you start to accept what you have no control over and prepare wherever you can? Okay, so one thing I like to do is analyze my worry, fear, and anxiety. If that gets operating, we need to analyze. Tibetan Buddhism likes to do analytical meditation. You're worried about unemployment, let's say. Okay, so right now, let's say you're unemployed. You've been furloughed, made redundant, laid off, as they say in our countries. Okay, what can you do about that? Well, right now, if nobody's hiring, there's not a lot you can do. Okay, but I do know there's some companies in the States that are hiring. And I know some people that decided to apply to those companies. It's not exactly the kind of work they want to do. They may not stay there at the companies for that long, but they just realize, well, there are some places hiring. Let me look at that application and see if I can get that in. Are there a lot of people applying? Yep, because the unemployment numbers are going up in the States. The other thing they did is they applied for unemployment payment, unemployment compensation. It's the second thing they could do. Some of them have a little bit of a savings, which they're dipping into. Some of them do not. So they've asked some friends and relatives for some assistance and applied for whatever possible grants they could do. What else can you do? So you analyze. Am I doing everything I can possibly do? Then you do. And as Master Shantideva and His Holiness likes to quote this a lot, is ask yourself what you can do. And again, I would add, please, with a motivation of compassionate wisdom, what can I do? If there's something I evaluate I can do, please take action. But sometimes I've come to a conclusion, there's nothing I can do. I can continue to be concerned and to look for opportunities to change the worry, to change the unemployment. But if there's nothing else I can do, what's the point of continuing the worrying rumination in your mind? Maybe I go back and I layer my meditation practice to calm myself down. What else can I do? Can I accept this is where we are right now? And can I make a broader perspective? I'm not the only one going through this right now. Often we get the worry and the fear keeps us anchored in me, myself, I, me, mine. This is happening to me. No, it's happening to many, many, many people around the planet right now. Many people I know out of work. Many people I know struggling financially. How will we get through it? We'll get through it together. That's the only way we'll get through it, together. Right? I don't have a lot of money, but I've offered some other people money. I just trust it will come back to me. And then today somebody sent me some money, a little bit of money. So it's just going to go around. If I keep the generous heart, the generous attitude working, I believe it's just going to come back around. Okay, you're not going to end up destitute in the street like that. Okay, worry. Let's look at another one here. Slow down and relax. So that's easy to say, relax. And when you're not relaxed and someone says relax, you want to punch them in the face. Okay. So, but we right now, okay, there's been, if you want to take your remote control, the global pause button has been pushed. Okay. We need to slow down. I think our planet has desperately needed to slow down. Some of you have told me individually, your life is running out of control. You want to slow down. Okay. Here's our opportunity. Okay. How are you handling it right now? I find it okay to slow down personally. And I'm somebody who's very active and I've been running centers, multitasking for years and going around the planet and trying to, pack in too many teachings and things like that. And I notice sometimes that's not so helpful. So the slow down, it's not about what I get accomplished every day. It's how I'm showing up for each of the things I have scheduled. Okay. And being okay with myself when there's still things on the to-do list for the day that didn't happen. That's okay. Why? Because I'm rolling that into my meditation practice each day, however long that happens, okay, to build some relaxation. So, and I'll put this one way is, stress may appear to get things done in the short term, okay? But in the long term, stress leads to burnout. Let me give you some ideas of how I think it's helpful for you to analyze stress and anxiety. Let's get the right terminology on things. We're not always clear on the terminology. Stress is a response to adverse or very demanding circumstances. Take your daily activities. Again, stress is a response to adverse or very demanding circumstances. Some of you are not in a very demanding circumstance right now. You may feel that you're in an adverse circumstance. Some people are not. Some people I know have told me they're catching up on their reading. They like the idea that they're taking more walks. They're spending a little bit more interactive time with their families. So, and then they might say, oh, I'm stressed. But when you really look at it, they don't have stress operating in their lives. Here's anxiety. worry about future uncertainty and the inability to control what will happen to you. Again, anxiety is more about worry about future uncertainty and the inability to control what will happen to you. Is this what you're experiencing? Okay, future uncertainty in your normal life. How can you be so certain about the future? And as Lama Zopa Rinpoche likes to frame things, you don't know whether death will come first or you're meeting your friend at the cafe for coffee. You really don't know. We think we know. We operate in a beaker, okay, in a kind of chemical dish, I want to say. And we plan all these things, and a lot of those things happen, but sometimes they get interrupted. They get interrupted by an accident, by sickness, by death, by changes in plans, changes in financial circumstances, like that. Okay, and here's the second part of anxiety, an inability to control what will happen to you. So what can you control? Your mind, your attitude. You know, I can't really control everything that will happen to you. I was driving the other day, and I volunteer and I drop some things at a local food bank once a week. And I was driving, and there was a terrible, terrible accident near my house. And I looked, 3 cars were involved, and I didn't know how one of them ended up backwards on one of the roads. I mean, somebody must have been moving very fast. There was a minor injury, it looked like. It was pretty serious. The cars were really badly damaged. You don't know. You can't control things like that. You're just driving to go to your friend's house. Something happens, okay? So anxiety in general, we get released from it by understanding I can just show up with my attitude. And if my attitude's negative, is there a way of reframing that attitude? Because it reduces anxiety, okay? Future uncertainty, future plans, I don't know. I've been leading, I led a pilgrimage to Laudo the end of 2018. And just in case you're interested, we've postponed our trip this year, but we're looking to go next spring, 2021. If you're interested in going to Laudo and doing a retreat, doing some trekking in Nepal, I'll put something in the chat of how you can contact us. But there were some people that wanted to go in 2018. And about a month before we left, one of the guys had a heart attack. He didn't plan on that. Okay, so you can't, so having the anxiety around it, this has to happen, I want this to happen, we don't know what will happen. So can I again go back to some breathing meditation? Slowly. I notice anxiety, which creates panic. If I start slowing down my breaths, this is the way we slow down. This contributes to relaxation. Slowly exhaling. And then from that, perspective opens up in my mind. I can't really control what's going to happen of when my kid will go back to school. I don't know if I'm going to have the job when they open up the business. I don't know if I'll be able to get a job when they open up. I don't know when they're going to open up. I don't know what will happen if I use up my savings. Like that. So slowly I'm doing what I can do. I can't control the rest. Okay, you do your best. You try your best. We're going to need to ask other people for help sometimes. That's okay. We're here to help. People want to help, like that. Here's a third thing that contributes to stress and anxiety. Pressure. Pressure is when you perceive something at stake is dependent on your performance. Is that what you're experiencing right now? Some people are not. There's not a thing. They can show up for an online Zoom meeting in their pajamas. They're not feeling there's a whole thing based about performance, because some employers have relaxed all of that to try to support employees that are going through these things. But if it is something dependent on performance, then you can say, yeah, I am feeling some pressure right now. I am feeling some pressure. How do I want to deal with it? I want to make sure I've got consistent meditation practice working for me. So identifying the underlying feeling, okay, then I can respond in a more helpful way. Okay, rather than just labeling, I'm stressed right now, I'm anxious. let's analyze what's really going on. So when you learn to slow down, you discover how easy it is to be relaxed while you're doing a lot of things and on the go. Okay? So I found I don't multitask very much anymore. When I do one thing at a time with focus, first of all, I have better focus, better mindfulness with one thing at a time. Okay, and here's the second part, with better time management. Another coping mechanism, time management right now. This is tricky for people. And I know 8 o'clock, you're gonna go onto the balconies and clap. So we will take a pause at 8 o'clock. We have 10 more minutes, I believe, is that right? Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is time management. You can't control everything, okay, but you can manage yourself, okay? When you begin to work smarter, not harder, smarter, and do the right things better, you begin to make the most and get the best out of your time, okay? If you take time, sometimes your time seems to expand. So I do know people that are getting out of bed right away and getting dressed as if they're going off to work. Okay, so here's a comment. Okay, so it's just about the chant they want to do. Okay, so what you want to do is, some people like to get up as if they are going to work, changing clothes, brushing teeth, to keep, suddenly it's a sense of, this is the beginning of my day. So you could see, does that help with time management? Or are you laying in bed a little bit too long in the mornings where it's not beneficial activities that are getting done? Think about that. When you're managing the time, when would you start the day if you're working? Can you have some activities that you start at that time? Maybe it's your practice. Maybe if you're out of work right now, your place of business is closed, or you're having to isolate, can we build more time into our practice? Okay, so most people find, and I've done some exercises with people, if they are streaming YouTube videos and Netflix movies, non-Dharma things, they've told me that it goes on for too long, it contributes to laziness, and they notice their mind is incredibly sluggish and everything. So there's people I know that want to watch some programs, and they set a thing where it's not going to happen before 7 in the evening. Can you keep to that with some willpower? That the TV, the device doesn't get turned on with that program until I've done this, this, and this, at least until I've done my practice for the day. At least I've tried this meditation. Now there's a lot of things online. So why not go online, give yourself a half an hour over to that meditation or that spiritual program. For every half an hour, I'm gonna stream something else, okay? Or maybe you can increase the time on the spiritual practice, lessening the time on the other device of the other program. Do you find that beneficial? So again, you yourself have to check in with your mind. Please check in. So here's an example. And let me just go back to my gallery view. Okay, if you want to put your hand up, how many of you are news junkies, would you say? Just put your hand up. Any news junkies there? I see a few hands. People that love looking at the news a lot. Yep, we've got a few of them. Okay, so let's just for a just to notice for a moment, news junkies. Okay, if you watch the news a lot, how much does it change? Not very much. Not very much hour to hour. Now, from the morning to the evening, you might want to check in if that's something that you do. Maybe you have an app on your phone, okay? And you're able to look at it quickly without a lot of videos rolling into your mind. I find that helpful. There's certain politicians in the States right now, I don't need them in my mental space. I'm not interested in hearing their voices or watching them talk. I've noticed, and what happens is, I noticed, watch a little bit of the news, 5 minutes. I'm giving you a limit, 5 minutes, okay? And then I want you to turn off the device And can you, for 2 minutes, notice how you feel body and mind after you just watch the news? Just 2 minutes, you notice body and mind. Is it a positive experience for your body and mind? Is it a neutral experience? Is it not making you feel that well? Is it contributing to one of your negative modes right now of laziness, fear, stress, restlessness, like that? Are there certain people that are being quoted on the TV, on the videos, on the news, that you find you don't agree with them or you're not feeling confident in them? Do you need to watch them anymore? You know, why allow that into your mental space? So please check. If you watch something else, and many of you are familiar, Lama Zopa Rinpoche every day now for us is recording like 1 to 2 hour video from Kopan where Rinpoche is. They're really fun to watch, and maybe you can't get through the whole 2 hours. So why don't you tune in for 15 minutes, turn it off, and notice body and mind, how you feel. Do you like that imprint? If it's difficult to understand Rinpoche, okay, there's one you can tune in and you can get the transcript alongside and you can read. And maybe you just prefer to read. Okay, can somebody post where we're watching the videos of Rinpoche? Let me see if I can find that right now, because I know it's on the FPMT site and it's great. I'm just going to try to post this. Okay, here we go. I'm going to post this right now in the chat. This is from the FPMT website, and you should be able to access a lot of the videos right there. I can't recommend them enough. And again, you know, maybe you don't have 2 hours. Watch 15 minutes a day instead of some other streaming thing, if you find that helpful. And again, maybe read the transcripts. It's amazing that they have a facility. First of all, the videos are very nicely made, very pleasant, very professionally done. And the second part is somebody, usually Venerable Joan, who's amazing. She's at Kopan, she's from Canada, a wonderful nun. She transcribes them while it's happening. So if you have trouble understanding Rinpoche, you can read the transcript. And if you want to skip through parts of it, you just read ahead. Some great coping mechanisms, really, really helpful. I can't recommend. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has videos. There's many great teachers that have videos, many programs. Can I increase that part of my watching and streaming and try to lessen a little bit of some of the news stuff that I'm noticing is not benefiting me? It's contributing to fear and panic. And another thing is a time waster. Again, the news doesn't change that much hour to hour. Can you go on once or twice a day only and have the willpower to do that? Okay, we're going to take a break so that you can cheer your heroes, just so people, in case they need to get to their window or open their windows. And for those of you that want to stay online, what I thought we would do is I'd like to read the King of Prayers. If anybody has it, I'm going to try to share my screen. Because, and the reason I'm reading the King of Prayers, there's a lot of practices that we could do for the virus, but we've lost Sean Jones of our UK community, who is a longtime practitioner. We've lost a number of people now, obviously around the world. There's about 120,000 who have died of this virus. I'm kind of curious, is it going to beat the tsunami in 2006 when about 220,000 people died? Again, that was something that didn't affect our communities as much. Now it's our turn. We're getting affected more. Okay. I'd also like to mention Marie Spina. I'd like to add her to our prayer list. She is from New York in Queens. Marie passed away around April 7th, and she was married to a wonderful guy that basically is one of the main people for Tibetan Center in New York, one of our main centers in New York, not an FPMT center, but Marie was his wife who was ill and she passed away. So for Sean, Marie, and all the other people. So if you want to go to your window, feel free. And if you want to go to the King of Prayers, I'm going to try to find it quickly on my, and I don't know if anybody has it on their screen. I'm just going to see if I can bring it up. I'm sorry I didn't have this ready. Okay. Here we go. Let's see if this comes up. This may be an older version, but okay. Let's see if I can share my screen. Okay. Can people see this? Can I get a nod if people can? Okay. If you'd like to go out and cheer the heroes, I completely salute them. I'd like to bring up somebody in my heart right now. Gina Canisi is a nurse in Florida. She works sometimes in the ER, the emergency room. She's part of our Florida Center, Tuptenkunga Center. She's there on the front line. She was telling me the other day, they don't have enough protective equipment. It's scary. And she lives alone with her dog, and she's going in every day for us, for all these people, putting herself at risk. So for all these people, let's read this prayer while people take a break and cheer anyone who'd like to read along with me. O lions amongst men, Buddhas past, present, and future, to as many of you as exist in the 10 directions, I bow down with my body, speech, and mind. Excellent food, supreme fragrances, and a mound of mystic substances high as Mount Meru, I arrange in a special formation and offer to those who have conquered themselves. And all peerless offerings I hold up in admiration of those gone to bliss. With the strength of faith and sublime ways, I prostrate and make offerings to the conquerors. Long overpowered by attachment, aversion, and ignorance, countless evils I have committed with acts of body, speech, and mind. Each and every one of these I now confess. In the perfections of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, in the Arhats, training and beyond, and in the latent goodness of every living being, I lift up my heart and rejoice. O lights into the 10 directions, Buddhas who have found the passionless stage of enlightenment, to all you, I direct this request, turn the incomparable wheel of Dharma. O masters wishing to show power nirvana, stay with us and teach, I pray, for as many eons as there are specks of dust, in order to bring goodness and joy to all beings. May any small merits that I may have amassed by thus prostrating, making offerings, confessing, rejoicing, asking the Buddhas to remain and teach the Dharma, be dedicated now to supreme and perfect enlightenment. May my offerings be received by all past Buddhas and by all those now abiding in the 10 directions. May all the Buddhas who have not yet come quickly perfect their minds and reach Buddhahood, the state of supreme awakening. May all the Buddhas' realms of the 10 directions remain forever vast and completely pure. May the world be completely filled with Buddhas who have attained illumination under sacred trees. And may they all be surrounded by bodhisattvas. May all living beings in the 10 directions always abide in health and joy. May they live in accord with the way of Dharma, and may their every Dharma wish be fulfilled. By my living in the ways of enlightenment, may I remember my past lives and all my reincarnations, and in all cycles of death, migration, and rebirth, may a sensitivity for truth be ever strong in me. By my following in the footsteps of the Buddhas, may I utterly perfect the sublime ways of the bodhisattvas. May I practice the faultless, undegenerating, stainless, and pure ways of self-control. May I master all languages that exist, including those of the gods, yakshas, spirits, and varieties of men, as well as all forms of communication of living beings, that I may be able to show the Dharma in every way. Striving thus and in the transcending perfections, may I never forget the Bodhi mind. May I totally cleanse from within my mind stream all negativities and mental veils. May I gain freedom from karma, delusion, and karmic maras to be able to live in the world unaffected by its stains. Like an unstained lotus grows in the mud, and like the sun and moon, shine without obstruction in the sky. For as long as there are Buddha fields and directions, may I strive to quell the misery of the lower realms. May I place all beings only in happiness and bring them all only happiness and joy. May I strive to complete the ways of enlightenment and to abide in ways harmonious with the world. May I expose to others the ways most sublime and myself abide in them throughout all future aeons. May my ways and the ways of a bodhisattva always go together hand in hand in body, speech, and mind. May I attune to their sublime ways. May I never be separated from the good friends who reveal the path of sublime ways and who wish only to benefit me. May I never disappoint them even for a moment. May I constantly envision the perfect Buddhas, the protectors who are surrounded by bodhisattvas, and in the future, may I never weary of devoting myself to them with all my strength. May I forever uphold the holy Dharma of the Buddhas and illumine the sublime way of enlightenment. May I practice throughout all future ages the ways of deeds of the sublime path. Circling in the various realms of existence, may I amass inexhaustible goodness and wisdom. May I become an unending treasure of qualities, such as methods, wisdom, samadhi, and the experience of a bodhisattva. In every atom are Buddha fields numberless as atoms, each field filled with Buddhas beyond conception, and each Buddha surrounded by myriad bodhisattvas. To all these dwellers in sublime ways I turn my attention. Then in all atoms within the directions abide within the space of a single hair, an ocean of Buddhas within an ocean of Buddha fields, performing enlightened activities for an ocean of eons. Each Buddha with his perfect speech releases an ocean of sounds with every word he says to satisfy the infinitely diverse tendencies of beings. Thus does the speech of a Buddha constantly flow. All these conquerors, past, present, and future, continually turn the methods of Dharma wheels. With all the powers of my mind, I listen for the inexhaustible sound of their words. All future eons that could possibly be manifest within me in a single instant, and I myself in a fraction of a moment enter all these eons of the three times. All past, present, and future lions amongst men, I envision with the instantaneous wisdom and by the power of the Bodhisattva's examples, I focus upon the objects of their experience. I manifest Buddha fields past, present, and future upon one single atom of existence, and then I transform every single atom of existence into a Buddha field. By this, when the future lights of the worlds eventually gain Bodhi, turn the Dharma wheels, and reveal the passing to Nirvana's supreme peace, may I take rebirth in that very presence. Then may I attain the 10 powers. The power of instant magical emanation, the power which is a vehicle with every door, the power of excellent activity, the power of all-pervading love, the power of constantly positive energy, the power of passionless wisdom, the powers of knowledge, method, and samadhi, and the power of enlightenment itself. May I purify the power of karma, may I crush the powers of delusion, may I render powerless the powerful maras, and may I perfect the powers of sublime ways. May I purify an ocean of realms, may I liberate an ocean of sentient beings, may I see an ocean of truths, and may I realize an ocean of wisdom. May I perform an ocean of perfect deeds, may I perfect an ocean of prayers, may I revere an ocean of Buddhas, and may I practice untiringly for an ocean of eons. Through my practice of sublime bodhisattva ways, may I gain the enlightenment of Buddhahood, and then fulfill the enlightened and sublime aspiration of the Buddha's past, present, and future. In order to match the ways of the sage called Samantabhadra, the always sublime one, chief amongst the awakened one's sons, I now dedicate all virtues that I possess. Just as sublime sage Samantabhadra dedicated all pure practices of body, speech, and mind to the attainment of a pure state and pure realm, so I do now dedicate the fruit of all my efforts. In order to engage in all sublime virtues, I offer the prayer of Manjushri. In the future, may I never become faint in striving to perfect the exalted Bodhisattva way. May my deeds never reach a limit. May my qualities of excellence become boundless. And by abiding in immeasurable activity, may I find Buddhahood the state of limitless manifestation. Limitless is the extent of space. Limitless is the number of sentient beings. And limitless are karma and delusions of beings. Such are the limits of my aspirations. One may offer supreme ornaments of the Buddha fields of the 10 directions to the conquerors, and also offer the highest joys of men and gods for eons numerous as atoms of the world. But to read or hear this king of prayers with eyes looking towards supreme illumination and faith shining in one's heart for even an instant gives birth to a far more superior merit. Should anyone recite this aspiration of sublime ways, they will pass beyond all states of sorrow, rise above all inferior beings, and gain a vision of Amitabha, Buddha of infinite light. Even in this very lifetime, all sublime joys will be theirs. The experiences of all sublime Samantabhadra without obstructions will quickly be theirs. Whoever by the power of ignorance has committed the 5 heinous deeds, if he should recite this prayer of Samantabhadra, will rapidly dissolve them without a trace. One will be endowed with wisdom, knowledge, beauty, enlightened marks, good lineage and race. Hordes of Mars and Tertikas dare not attack one who is so honored throughout the 3 realms. Merely by giving voice to these aspirations of the sublime ways of a bodhisattva, the effects can only be known by an omniscient Buddha Therefore, doubt not that it leads to enlightenment. In order to follow the excellent examples set by the wisdom of the Bodhisattva Manjushri and by the always sublime Samantabhadra, all virtues I dedicate to their peerless ideals. All encounters passed into the three times have praised as supreme this peerless dedication. Therefore, I also surrender all roots of my activities to the sublime goals of a bodhisattva. When the moment of my death arrives, may I remain free from the spiritual obscurations. May I perceive the face of Amitabha and transmigrate to Sukhavati, the pure land of great joy. Having arrived there, may I fulfill all aims of this prayer of aspirations and benefit the countless living beings residing throughout the 10 directions. In the joyous mandal of Amitabha Buddha, may I be reborn from a beautiful lotus, and may I there have the pleasure of gaining a pure prophecy from Amitabha himself. Having won this word of prophecy, by the power of mind, may I fill all directions with many millions of mystical emanations and bring limitless benefits to the world. If by reciting this prayer of the sublime ways, I have amassed a tiny fragment of goodness, may it work immediately to fulfill all dharmic hopes of living beings. Through the supreme merit I've gained by my dedication of the sublime deeds of the Bodhisattva, may all living beings drowning in the flood of suffering be reborn in the immaculate realm of Amitabha Buddha. May this supreme unsurpassable king of vows benefit all infinite migrating beings. This text adorned by Samantabhadra being accomplished, may all streams of ill fortune be emptied. In the last verse, swiftly one reaches the royal Bodhi tree to sit beneath it for the welfare of all beings. Swiftly one awakens to enlightenment, then turns the Dharma wheel, overcoming the Maras and their host. That was an older version, but I want to thank you for joining me in sending that out to the planet. And oh, thank you. Somebody had posted it as well. Thank you very much. Let's continue about some coping mechanisms of how to deal, adding to the self-compassion, what lends to resiliency in our remaining 20 minutes. And I will open it up soon to some questions, comments, things like that. Yes, it is an amazing prayer. It's a wonderful prayer, the King of Prayers, to do at the end of your day as a complete dedication. It kind of covers everything. Rinpoche loves us to do that prayer at the end of the day. It's sometimes called the prayer of Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra was an offering wizard. So he would offer one tea light and it would multiply into infinite tea lights. So again, it's a way of dedicating in a very powerful, multiplied way like that. So here's another thing of working about the solution focus. Somebody had mentioned focus as their one word. Okay, tips, we'll come to that question in a moment. Tips to stay motivated. Okay, making things positive, I just want to add, it does not necessarily mean always having a sunny outlook. Okay, it means making a choice to see problems as an opportunity. Okay, to see problems as an opportunity. This is the crux of some of our most fundamental practices. Lama Zopa Rinpoche now has, and here, this is also in response to your question, to be motivated at the present time. Do you have any tips surrounding motivation? Okay, so again, can we reframe problems as an opportunity? I mentioned, I'm not a perfect practitioner by any means. I'm a nun, but I'm not a holy person. I'm an ordinary being like you. The sewage in my basement. Okay, I could have complained and whined for the rest of the day, called all my friends up and said, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened to me. It was horrible, it was horrible, it was horrible. It's not gonna get the sewage cleaned up. I'm living here by myself right now, okay? So it's kind of like, okay, need to clean it up at some point. I can't leave it there, okay? And in addition, my mop broke right at the beginning of the process. So you have some obstacles, okay? Well, first of all, I'm in okay health. That's a wonderful opportunity. I'm not sick, I can clean it up. Okay, I need to clean up the room. So you just get to it. What's the point of wasting time waiting, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off? You know it will be there. Okay, we always have that place of, in a sense, caca that we need to tend to, whether it's the closet you need to clean out, whether it's the drawer you need to clean out, whether it's the project you keep putting off and it keeps ending up on your to-do list. What if you start to look at it, and maybe you're not going to complete it all? Maybe you just devote 15 minutes to it. And suddenly you see it's not as big a deal as I thought. Or maybe it is, I started cleaning up the basement sewage, and it was a little bit daunting in the beginning. I was like, this is going to take a while. I'm not, the things I'm using to absorb it are not working as well. So I start looking around for other sponges, other mops, other things I can absorb it with. Get creative. A lot of people have gotten very creative right now. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche asks us, right now he's asked us to do a practice. I'm just going to try to pull this up online for a moment. And Rinpoche's asked us to do a practice before the COVID thing that he's wanted us to do, that's called a method for transforming suffering into happiness. This is a practice that Rinpoche's wanted us to do in general for our practices. Okay, it's something I do in the morning. I sometimes do it lying in bed. You can easily, if you say it out loud, memorize it. And let me just see where I can find it. Okay, that didn't work. It's not working. Okay. I'm wondering if anybody has that and they can post it. The suffering method, it's basically, the beginning is a scan of the Lam Rim. It's a scan of our basic philosophy, okay? Then it goes into some Lojong, mind training. Mind training is all about transforming problems. This is how you keep your mind resilient, is everything can be reframed, okay? But I find if I do this practice in the morning, it doesn't take very long. It's then followed by some special mantras, sacred sayings that help us kind of wake up our speech, keep the mind more balanced. If I say them, whatever recitations I do that day, with faith, they'll be multiplied. All the power of them will be multiplied, okay? I'm still looking for this practice. Let me see if somehow these websites are not opening up right now. The Shanti Deva website doesn't seem to be working. I don't know why. Okay, let's see if I can. Just gonna quickly, okay.
Venerable Amy, check if it's the one that I posted.
Okay, I don't seem to be able to open that, but right now I must be having some trouble with my computer, but let's see if I can.
Is it the method?
Yes, this is it. This is the practice. Okay, thank you, Andrea. That's the practice. Some of you are already doing this, I understand, okay? We start our practice sessions on Wednesdays and Saturdays. It's 6 o'clock England time. We start with that because that's the first thing Rinpoche's wanted us to do. Many of you are already doing it. It's quite powerful. And again, it's very short. You can end up doing the whole thing once you know it well and can do it more quickly in about 10 minutes. So that's one way I find of adding focus, is to see problems as an opportunity. Every problem and difficult situation, there's a solution that's there. The adventure lies in finding the solution rather than holding yourself hostage in, I have a problem. This is a problem. This will always be a problem. I don't like this problem. I don't want problems. This is samsara. Samsara's nature is there's going to be problems. We have a big problem on the planet. This is unusual, this sort of problem, okay? But if we're able to deal, a lot of us have problems in life. We've been dealing, if you get good about dealing with small problems in your life, then you're going to be able to better handle the bigger problems. And right now we have an opportunity. Some of you are not seeing this as much of a big problem because you've got money, you have work, you're able to work online, your families are well. Fantastic for you, wonderful karma. If you're being challenged by certain things right now, look at it with open eyes. How can I get creative to deal with this? And here's another thing, who can I ask for help? It's okay to ask for help with things right now. We're not in this by ourselves, okay? And one thing I want to say just before, I've got a lot more exercises maybe we can do in a future class if you like. But one thing I'd like to say before I take some questions is as this global pause button has been pushed, and a lot of us have slowed down and been forced to slow down, and our opportunity of staying inside and challenging us with some other practices we can do. Okay, some people I know are doing better than others. I know that, right? I'm concerned about the poor people on the planet because first of all, they've always had a hard time, and now they're having a most hard time than ever. It's incredible right now. I know the Philadelphia area. It's just staggering for poor people. There's very little support like that. We try our best. So what I found is, can you right now, in the time that you have to pause, can you reflect more deeply through the days with your life? Can you reassess what's most valuable to you? What is lending the most support for a positive mind? What is not benefiting you? Number one right now, and what is not benefiting you as much in your life? So are there ways now to renumber my priorities of what's most valuable to me in my life, what's least valuable? And I do find, one of the things I find, and can you put your list together in a different way? And I really hope, I do hold out hope that the planet having to, in a sense, deconstruct itself will be in a reconstruction soon, parts of the planet. And can we find a way to reconstruct? I like to hope that our leaders and things like that may choose to reconstruct in a healthier, more harmonious way for more beings. I'm not expecting that. I'm not going to hold out expectation, but I am going to hold that in my heart. What can I do about it? I can just contribute with my own harmonious living as much as possible, with my own positive going forward view, with my own reframing negative circumstances, with my own creativity and innovation to move forward, to think about, what do I need to do if I'm finding I'm a little lazy and spending too much time in the kitchen eating? Most of my friends said they're gaining weight. So maybe I need to suddenly realize I need to set up this session outside of the kitchen. That's not helping me to be in the kitchen. Maybe I can find a little corner of my space to set up a little stretching area like that, and set up a time every day that's when I'm going to get to it, like that. To take yourself out on a walk one extra day a week that you're not getting to as the weather gets nicer right now. Is that possible? So think about those ways you might want to reframe and what ways you might want to renumber or readjust your priorities. This is the time to do that and make some commitment to going forward. And I hope some of it will be folding in more practice in your lives to seeing the value. So here's another thing just before we run out of time, is to think about, I feel so much of our planet is disconnected from love. And I don't mean to sound cliche or pie in the sky, but we're disconnected from this really fundamental web that melts through everything. So how does that relate to you? When are you choosing love? Number one, for yourself. And it's okay to choose number one for yourself if you keep a bigger, broader motivation accessible, that I'm choosing some care and love and compassion for myself so that I have more of that to lend to others around me. Okay, I think it's really important to continue to show up for people. Let's say you're living with some people right now that are kind of irritating you. Love has you choose to focus on their positive attributes. That's what love does. It's the way you look at your kids. Your kids may annoy you at times, but you always love them. You always want them to be happy. So we can always see that through it, like that. So can I, in a little bit, readjust my view of people that may be annoying me? Even some world leaders right now need our love and compassion. Okay, it doesn't mean we have to agree with what they're doing. Doesn't mean we have to agree. I know some people have even said, oh, this one particular world leader, he's sick. Okay, well, how do you deal with a sick person? Don't you have compassion for them? Don't you open your heart to somebody who's ill, who seems unbalanced? Sure, sure, we try. Okay, at least it keeps me more peaceful. You know, I'm not being held hostage with anger and negativity coming out of me in relation to someone. I don't need to contribute and create more trenches of that in my mind. So let's open up for any questions if you want to write in the chat. We could also unmute a mic if somebody wants to. It's great. Some people reconsidering their priorities, fantastic. Okay, so something I said in the beginning, motivation and focus. I said something about what's the purpose or something. I think we were setting a motivation. Andrea, I think I was talking about directing your awareness. So always establish that motivation for whatever activity you're doing. And can I broaden my view to think, I would like to do this activity, and may the activity have some way of moving me along a path to full awakening, as then I'm unlimited and benefiting all living beings. So I think I was talking about that. Can that be rolled into this, creating this buoyant cushion for ourselves? Always consider the motivation. It's so important before any activity. Other comments, questions? It's just lovely seeing all of you. And if anybody wants to open up, have any comments that you've got, or and is this helpful for people, or am I repeating too much that you already know?
I just had a question. Is okay. So I asked the question about motivation, and I thought your response was really beautiful. So thank you so much. I also wondered. I know that at the moment the world is on pause, and we're being encouraged to reflect, and that's so. And as you were saying, there's so much more time to practice meditation, to practice the Dharma, etc. But right at the beginning, I also made the comment about feeling quite overwhelmed, because it's like, all of a sudden, especially if so I've been furloughed, so at the moment I just have all this expanse of time on my hands, and on the one hand I know that it's positive in the sense that there's lots to do in terms of I can meditate more regularly, I can read, etc. But there's also so much that you could do, and it's so overwhelming because you've got this email saying, oh, you do that course, and then there's another email saying, oh, do this, and how do you have any suggestions about trying to prioritize and streamline, because everything's moving online now. So while you're trying to focus and take time to simplify life, there are also competing opportunities for everything to become really frantic.
Yep. So actually, and sorry, I'm going to put another website down. I'm going to put my website. My website also has info about the Laudo pilgrimage in 2021. It'll be in April or May. If you're interested, there's also a lot of my whole schedule's on the homepage right now of what I am doing online, if that's helpful. And it's connected to a YouTube channel and things like that. But what you have to do is, you cannot do everything. There's no way. We can't. And I've noticed all these things coming, and I'm a little bit behind in Rinpoche's videos. So I'm like, you know what? I can only get to them when I can. I just can't do it all. So I'm choosing, there's a certain training I wanted to do, and that fit in, that worked up, that worked, I was able to get to that. And so I'm signed up for that. And then during that time, there were some other teachings that were going to happen. And I just realized I can't do that. So let it go. It's good enough. So make a little plan for yourself, and just maybe make it for the next week, unless you're looking ahead at certain trainings you could get. I know some people that are doing trainings that offer a certificate. So that it's a professional certificate in something, meaning it could be in Reiki, it could be in management, something, right? But they can then use that certificate of something they wanted to do. Someone I know just got one in nutritional counseling, right? They can use that for their job. When things open up, they suddenly have another thing while they're anchored at home that suddenly they've wanted to do, but you can't do it all. So kind of have a little look around at what What are you interested in doing? What do you want to do? Okay. And then look at, what's my main course of interest and focus. So, and what you might want to do is map out the day where here's an hour or two, my practice. And part of that hour or two, it depends. I have no idea how long you practice, and I'm just throwing out a time frame. But you might say, well, part of that's going to be this, and a half an hour of that is going to be watching one of Rinpoche's videos, just a half an hour each day, or a half an hour is going to be going on to this online thing I like at Jamyang London, or Thupten Khunga Center, or whatever you happen to do, this teacher that you like. But that's all you've got is a half an hour that day. So you don't finish the video, but the next day I'm going to watch another half an hour, or maybe they pop on with something new comes in and you go, I think I'm going to watch, I've got a couple hours right now. I think I'm going to watch that. I think I'll watch the whole thing. And so kind of mapping the day out. And if you're looking at a certificate program or a longer training, and it may go through May, look at that and see, is that something I could possibly fit in? But at least you could sign up now and see what happens, because the chances are a lot of places will be closed down in May still, and that way you'll be able to participate in what you're doing. I hope that's helpful, because I know it's not so easy but you can't do it all. So just let go all the other stuff coming through, make a decision on something and just stick with it and do it. Good enough.
That's super helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I think, if I may say something, one more question. I think what I hear, and I notice that people are the fortunate people with access to internet are feeling very pressured to do something meaningful with the time. I think it's like, oh my God, I'm wasting time. So it's that bad. I mean, we want to, and then you do that hour and then you don't make that hour because you didn't feel like it. I think that's the challenge that people are having, is like, oh, I'm wasteful, and feeling pressure because they're looking online and it's like people are live streaming, people are doing cooking, and you're at home doing nothing. So I think there's a lot of that going on.
Sure. So look at the nothing, and you need to spend a little time. Again, you're doing nothing. Take a moment, close your eyes. How do you feel? Some people enjoy the nothing. They're just, that works for them. Some people, it doesn't work at all. So if you notice suddenly, I'm not getting this, not getting to that, and I feel guilty. Some people said to me they feel guilty or they're bored. So why not try something for 15 minutes? Try one of those things. Just turn it on for 15 minutes and watch 15 minutes. Pick up the Dharma book you've been wanting to read and start to open, just read, just say, I'm going to read 2 pages a day. Start with something small that is possible for you to do, rather than loading up on, oh, I'm going to get through 6 books in a week. It's just not, it's not realistic for a lot of people. Okay. So break it down where a little something is happening. A little something is happening. Is that helpful? For the person that just asked?
It certainly is for me. I didn't ask the question, but yeah, thank you. It's helpful for me.
Thank you.
Asked, does asking someone for help provide that person? Yeah, if you ask for somebody for help and they want to offer the help wholeheartedly, they can certainly get merit. Absolutely. Is merit not gained from help that was requested, as opposed to, we get more merit maybe from providing help for others, but if we need help, it's okay to ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. The only way the world goes around is we're dependent on others. It's the only way we function right now. It's the only way we've ever been able to function like that. So we don't live in vacuums. There's no way this planet goes around like that. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's another question. Cooking. Okay, so you're home, you're cooking and cleaning, homeschooling 2 high energy kids. Please give yourself a break, okay? We use words like overwhelmed and we get stuck in overwhelmed. What if you're just whelmed? What if you just use that word instead? Like, it's just a label, it's just a word. Okay, you've got a lot going on. My neighbors, I'm living between 7 children in 3 households right now. So I'm in touch with the mothers who are working at home. And one of them, she's got beautiful long hair and she's kind of like, it's amazing I have any hair left on my head. And her kids are good kids and she's a good mom. She's working full time at home. She, you know, she lives with her father-in-law. He's driving her crazy. I mean, there's just, and she's managing the kids, and you can only do your best, and you're showing up right now and you're giving it your best shot. And, you know, as a human, our best shot's limited. That, and be gentle with yourself and go, you know, I'm just doing the best I can right now. Let the guilt and the overwhelm, notice them like bubbles floating off into space. You don't need to follow those thoughts. You're going to follow the thoughts about, I'm going to give it my best shot to homeschool for my kids. You have to get creative every day of your menus. Mothers hate doing that. My mom used to ask us, what do you want to have for dinner every night? She wanted to know because she was tired of having to think it up. Okay. So you're doing that. Thank you for taking care of your family and feeding your kids and cooking and cleaning and homeschooling. Please give yourself and celebrate. And could we unmute our mics for a moment? And so this is for Donna, okay? Donna around the we need our parents that are showing up for their kids that way.
Thank you.
We need our parents that are trying. I think it's really hard for those in between. I've got some in between generations. So there's people home with their school age kids, right? And their parent is in a nursing home right now and they can't visit them. And the nursing home has COVID moving through the nursing home. Can you imagine? No wonder we feel overwhelmed. But you know what? You're probably doing the best you can right now.
Thank you.
And please give yourself credit for that. Okay, so here is, okay, overwhelm and anxiety to an extreme level every time you try to meditate. So what happens is if you're new, you just said you started meditating. This is what happens when you're new to Dharma practice, is it's the first time you're really looking at your mind, perhaps. Okay, and we go along, we're swimming along as relatively good campers, we might say. And suddenly I start to meditate. So what I'm doing is I have a clear glass of water. And this is my life, the clear glass of water. It looks pretty good. But in the bottom, there's a layer of dirt. And that's my delusions and the imbalances just from being a human, just common. And when I start Dharma practice, I've put a straw in now, a stir, and I have stirred the clear liquid and all the dirt from the bottom gets stirred up. And now the clear water glass that looks so inviting and delicious is now murky. This is my mind and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. We need to first have awareness to look at our minds before we can clean out and get clear on what we need to clean out. So there are going to be times you have anxiety and things. I would just, instead of following the thought, take a deeper breath and slow down the inhalation and the exhalation. And begin to place yourself next to a clear mountain lake. And the clarity is one aspect of your mind, not anxiety, depression, or fear. One of the characteristics of our mind in the Tibetan tradition is clarity. Clarity, that's simple. The mind knows things and it's clear. That's your mind, okay? But I'm not seeing the clarity now. I'm seeing anxiety and overwhelm and fear, and that's not the nature of my mind, simply imbalanced patterns going through. Like when a bubble rises to the surface of the lake and the ripples go out. Big bubble of anxiety, bigger ripples disturbing the clear aspect of my mind. That's all. Release yourself, release the thought for a moment. Imagine that bubble popping or dissolving back into the surface, and then the ripples subside. Just focus on the breathing and merge yourself with the clear mountain lake that is like your mind. Merge yourself with that experience when you get overwhelmed. Or picture you're looking into the clear blue sky and the overwhelm comes up like clouds, like a bank of rain clouds, perhaps, obscuring us from the clear blue sky. That's all. Return your awareness. You know beneath the clouds is the clear blue sky on a rainy day. So merge yourself with that clear, luminous spaciousness of the sky instead of the clouds. See what's between the clouds, what's between the gaps, what's in the gaps of your thoughts. There are gaps between moments of overwhelm in your mind. Focus on the gaps instead of the overwhelm. Focus on the gaps instead of the anxiety. There are gaps there. don't follow as much and don't give as much attention to the anxiety and the overwhelm. Why is it in my mind, you might say? Simply from previous habits and moments of that in your mind. That's all. That's all. Is that helpful to Brian in LA? And the sandwich generation, I feel for you. You're very, very squash, holding together school-age kids, even kids at university right now, and then aging parents. It's a really tricky time. Again, please do something kind for yourself every day. I don't care if it's smelling lilacs outside, going for a walk, having 5 minutes of sun on your face if you have a nice day, taking a bath, having the little piece of chocolate you wanted to have, watching the one show you wanted to watch that you waited all day to finally stream something on Netflix. Fair enough, why not? It's okay. So we're over time. I don't know if it's okay if people want to stay on or if people want to open up microphones and have any concluding things. I would like to, just at this juncture, I'd like to dedicate, first of all, any merit, any positive energy we've created from our time together. I want to thank so many people for joining us from all different continents and places. But let's invest before everybody parts to take the merit and invest it in our really trying to cultivate as much as we can a balanced experience within the overwhelm and the overactivity and the fear and the imbalance. Like, we're just human beings. We're muddling through and we're all doing this together. We're all in this together. Nobody's separate from this. We're all managing in different ways with different resources. So let's we're gonna just try our best. That's all we can do. We're humans, we have a limited perspective, but can we fold in as much practice as we can do and as much of this merit and positive energy to our quickly getting enlightened and reaching a place where we're unlimited in benefiting all living beings. I particularly like to direct again for Sean and Marie to immediately be released of their suffering and take a precious human rebirth immediately, where they can quickly get enlightened and work perfectly for all others, and all those who have recently passed away as well. My friend's mother in a nursing home in Massachusetts, Jean Kelly, passed away of COVID a few days ago, and all the other people on the planet passing away and thinking of their loved ones that are unable to be with them and see them, and all the first responders, all the people on the front lines, the healthcare workers, all the people driving our buses and running our subways and cleaning our buildings, the trash collectors, the postal people, all these people serving us all the time. So can we dedicate to their well-being and to the long lives and perfect health of our precious teachers, especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. If we want to stay on for a few more minutes, if anyone wants to open their microphone, any last comments or anything else that you're finding is best supporting?
Amen, sister.
She goes into Halloween Town because she cast a spell and it took her into a portal, and she never knew she could actually do that. And then she got on a ride. She thought it would be scary, and she got a ride from a skeleton named Benny to her grandma's house because everyone knew her.
Big and amazing. So awesome.
Dear. Who's that?
So cute. So, and I'd like to wish all of you to please stay healthy and please be patient with yourselves, okay? That's a really important part of coping. And maybe if we have time in the future, we can make another session, or please check my website for some future things. And I would like to say, please, I know some of you are out of work and things. Please support Jamyang London. I want to thank them for hosting me. Please support this center. They have a staff, so it's very challenging for our retreat centers and our families with staff. They've just posted a link. If you can make a donation, think about what the money you're not using right now in eating out, in getting your latest latte outside and your latest cafe and getting your latest pastry. Is that a donation you could make to Jamyang or your local center? Please, please consider doing that. right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Please
you.
take care.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.
Venerable.
Thank you,
Thank
Amy.
Amy, and best wishes for your sister.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jamyang, for
Thank you.
hosting.
Thank you.